The wind blows hard in December, and so do I. So we've had a little bit of a while to get used to the fact that Xenoblade X on the Switch is real. It is indeed happening, and whenever we see it again, probably February, that's when we can expect to see the new story content, what exactly that entails, or at least some more ambiguous foreshadowing, perhaps. And of course, that has naturally brought upon so much speculation. That's pretty much the hottest topic surrounding this definitive edition. It's not even about what they should change in the gameplay itself, but it's whether or not Xenoblade X will finally have a direct connection to the rest of the franchise. I've got to admit, no matter how unrealistic the speculation has gotten, it has been pretty damn fun. Even I've made a video about it myself. But amidst all that brain rot, as I'll call it, I think that a lot of us, including myself, have been missing a very important question surrounding all of this. Have we ever really truly stopped and asked ourselves, should it even happen? Should Xenoblade X connect to the trilogy? Because speaking completely selfishly here, yes, I would love it if Xenoblade X connected to the trilogy, because, don't get mad, the trilogy actually has great narratives. Xenoblade X does not. The mainline campaign, as we all know, it's not the best, it's not particularly a story-driven game, but even the lore, look, I know the Xenoblade X fans, they'll swear by it, they'll say, hey, if you do a lot of the side quests, the lore is actually better than some of the other Xenoblade games. I do not, I don't agree with that at all. It is compelling, don't get me wrong, it is intriguing, but it is also very ambiguous and just downright unfinished in many elements. So to say, to be so confident that, yeah, it's just so much better, no, I don't share that at all. I really don't. In fact, I'm more confident in X being interesting if it did connect. And also, like I said, it's been fun to talk about. Why is it fun to talk about? Because this mainline trilogy has been pretty batshit crazy with how they've revealed the connections. So just imagining the possibility of that happening again, I mean, how could you blame anyone for being curious? Just the mere possibility that they would somehow connect X to the rest of the games in a way that is sensible, that would be insane if they pulled that off. You cannot deny that. But you see what just happened there? I asked the question, I introduced the main topic of the video, should Xenoblade X be connected to the rest of the games, and almost immediately I was like, oh, but it'd be cool though. And that's usually how the discourse goes. We're too busy thinking about how cool it would be, instead of asking ourselves, okay, but would it be the best for the franchise? Would it be the best for Xenoblade X by itself? Because here's the thing, even if nobody else will do it, I will do it. I will acknowledge the plenty of Xenoblade X fans who don't give a shit about the main trilogy. I've seen y'all. You guys, you're really passionate. I love it, but you know, it's a little much every now and then. But I see you. I hear you. You are completely valid. There's also plenty of fans who maybe give a shit about the trilogy, but they still want X to just be its own thing. They think that lore can stand on its own, or even if they have really no proof of that, maybe they haven't played X, they still want it to be self-contained, just have a fresh experience. And honestly, I do share a lot of those concerns. If I put away all that brain rot and be able to see clearly, yeah, they do have a point. And you know, I'm trying to appeal to both sides here. I'm trying to present both arguments for the sake of conversation. Xenoblade X fans, you already had your little time to be upset at me. Now the mainline fans, now it's your turn to turn against me, okay? Let's start with the people that only care about Xenoblade X. I would feel bad for them. I really would. Because here they are, a whole decade ago, playing this cool robot game on the Wii U, not caring about Xenoblade 1. Xenoblade 2 comes out, oh, I still don't gotta care about that. Xenoblade 3 comes out, I still don't gotta care about that. There was never any sort of expectation, never any sort of promise, Yes, there are little references, like I've mentioned, but for the most part, it was always Xenoblade X, baby, not the entire franchise. And now all of a sudden, in March 2025, they finally get to play their beloved game again, and then they get to the new story contents as they eventually realize, oh, I'm confused because I didn't get to play all these games that I was never told that I had to give a shit about. And sure, you could say that, well, not everybody's gonna be happy, especially a small fraction, a vast minority of the community. Which, yeah, that's true. I mean, the Wii U was an unpopular console, and even Xenoblade X was an unpopular game on release. So, yeah, those people, it's not like there's huge numbers there, but they still do exist. They still matter. They're still valid in how they feel. And let's not act like the future isn't gonna bring upon more of them, because Xenoblade X is such a different game from the rest of the franchise. It's not just the fact that it's open world. It's not just the fact that it isn't a story-driven game. It's also the fact they have American accents! It is such a stylistically different game. Even the soundtrack. I've seen some Xenoblade X fans call Xenoblade 2 cringe, and then say that X's soundtrack is the best in the franchise, which is fucking hilarious, by the way. But they exist! They're there! The point is that whether it's past, present, or future, there are going to be people who care about X and only X, and it's not their fault because X presents itself as just a whole different game. Just fundamentally, you know, or at least you're given the impression that this is not the mainline series. Now you could argue that Xenoblade 2 presented itself different from Xenoblade 1, and sure, yeah, in many ways that is a very different title. I've talked about this many times, but you know what? It's also called Xenoblade 2, so it's not that crazy. When you think about it, it's not that crazy that it has a more direct connection to Xenoblade 1. And even within the adventure itself, there are gradual hints towards that connection. It's not like X where there's just mere references. And also, for the long-time subscribers, you know what I'm about to say. You know what angle I'm about to approach this on. You were probably waiting the whole time for me to say this. If Xenoblade X has the slightest direct connection to the mainline trilogy, you already know what's gonna happen. If you're a part of the Xenoblade community, you know what is gonna become of you. You're gonna start telling everybody, hey, yeah, you're interested in Xenoblade? Oh, that's cool. Oh, the newest one, Xenoblade X? Oh yeah, the mechs are great. That's I'm happy you're excited. But you should play the main trilogy first. You should play 3 full games, and their DLCs, by the way, before you play Xenoblade X. Yeah, I know it came out a decade ago, but there's a decade worth of homework, so yeah, that's the only way you should play them. Exactly in order. For the record, by the way, if there is anybody who hasn't played any Xenoblade games, you know, there's no spoilers in this video, so you might be here. You can play Xenoblade X, it's fine. You don't gotta... Even if there is a lot of talk about direct connections, you'll be okay. They would have to make it more insane than the popular speculation for it to suddenly be a requirement for you to understand Xenoblade X, so it's fine. Jump into Xenoblade X, you're good. Also, if X does have these direct connections we're all thinking of, what's gonna happen to the sequel? Is it gonna be called Xenoblade 4? Xenoblade X 2? Are they both gonna exist, or is it just gonna be one future for the franchise now? If we're connecting all these games, then there's just a lot of questions, you know? There could still be both Xenoblade 4 and X2 regardless of how much they connect, right? It doesn't just have to be one story being told. But I bring it up because I think at the end of the day, the most important thing to me, it's probably the healthiest to have 2 types of Xenoblade games. Because I look at other Nintendo franchises, you look at Mario, you look at Zelda, you look at Metroid, what's the similarity? They all have their 2D iterations and their 3D iterations. Zelda especially got a lot of flack from the hardcore Zelda fans because Tears of the Kingdom didn't have these traditional dungeons and yada yada yada, But then they made Echoes of Wisdom, which isn't, 100% a traditional Zelda game, but it's a lot more along those lines. And that way, if you continue making those more traditional Zelda games alongside those new 3D Zelda games, you get as much fans on your side as possible, and that means you get as much money as possible. So assuming that Xenoblade X sells well, which I think it will, then yeah, I think that completely justifies having two types of Xenoblade games. You don't just have to commit to one. And I think that's just good for the developers too, because if they just worked on just one thing the whole time, yeah, it's still Xenoblade, but at least in this case, they still have another style. They're still allowing themselves the leeway to change things up and be creative. So all in all, can we finally answer the question, should Xenoblade X connect to the other games? It might sound anticlimactic, it might sound like a cop-out, but if you know me, this is sincerely how I feel. And that is, whatever the developers want. If they do end up directly connecting, but it's mostly like a fan service thing, it's mostly something they did because, well, the fans probably want that, so we'll do it. I don't want that. I don't. That would feel pretty hollow to me personally. I'm sure many of you would be excited. And for some reason, if Nintendo forced them to do it, that would be weird. But in that strange timeline, yeah, I wouldn't want that to happen either. I only want this to happen if it at least feels like this is something that they really wanted to do. This was a vision that they are really passionate about. That's why when Xenoblade X first released, even though I was a huge Xenoblade 1 fan, I wasn't complaining that much, I was enjoying the game. That's why when Xenoblade 2 first came out, I was still having a blast. And that's certainly why when I found out that Xenoblade 3 didn't have as many direct connections as I initially thought, I was still perfectly content. Of course I have my grievances, of course I have my preferences and my criticisms, I've done that in many videos, but at the end of the day, as long as I can feel that this is the game they wanted to make, as long as I can feel that vision, show me what you got. Pleasantly surprise me. Really, the number one thing is, just give me something better than Future Connected. I know I trash talk Future Connected a lot. It's not bad. It's very good. It's very cozy. Great time. But that's what I mean by it felt like fan service. So whatever this Xenoblade X epilogue or whatever story content it is, I do not want to feel that way. And there's plenty of unresolved mysteries about Xenoblade X, so it better not feel that way. That's my one thing. And to be fair, not to just pick on Future Connected, I just do it because I think it's funny. It's also like certain little things about Xenoblade 3 and Future Redeemed that like feel like fan service to me. But if you aren't satisfied by that answer, do not worry. I'm gonna reward you for sticking around this long. I will lean one way or the other. And surprisingly, right now, I am leaning towards no. I don't think Xenoblade X should connect. In fact, I think Xenoblade X shouldn't. Because in my mind, that secures those two types of Xenoblade games I was talking about. I'm not saying it needs to be that way for it to happen. To me, that just makes the most sense, feels the most natural. Because it's not like we need this connection. We just think it'd be cool. Xenoblade 4 is still gonna happen. Like, we're still gonna be happy. Like, it's not really a big deal when you think about it. And if the mainline fans are gonna be happy anyway, then why risk dampering some of the enthusiasm of those hardcore X fans who don't care about the mainline games? You see what I'm saying? It's like, we're gonna be happy anyway. So we might as well let them be happy too. There you have it. That is my definitive answer to this conversation about Xenoblade X Definitive Edition. And please feel free to add to the conversation as well. I'm sure you have your own impassioned takes about some of the things I said. It's just a great time. I mean, it's slow right now. Not much is happening. But it is December, an iconic month for this game. So I would at least hope that during the holidays, you are thinking about this future we have with the Xenoblade X. I know some of us are having a little rough. and the holidays might not even be like a happy time for you. So I really hope, you know, games like Xenoblade X, something that people have been asking for a long time, I hope things like that can give you something to look forward to, give you some hope. We are never in shortage of hope. So whether you hope that it does connect or it doesn't, I hope to see you this March for Xenoblade X Definitive Edition. Thank you all for watching. Happy anniversary, by the way. I literally almost forgot.